to China EVs and More, where my co-host Lei Xing and I will go over the week's most important and interesting news coming out of the global EV, AV, and mobility sectors. What Lei and I discuss today is based on our opinions and should not be taken as investment advice. For those that are new to the show, welcome. And to our loyal listeners and viewers, welcome back. Word is getting out about this podcast, so keep spreading the word and help us. And of course, tune in again next week. My name is Lee. I'm the managing director at Sino Auto Insights, a global management consultancy that helps organizations bring innovative and tech-focused products and services to the transportation and mobility sectors. I write a free weekly newsletter that we pull many of our discussion topics from. You can sign up for it at sinoautoinsights.substack.com, which of course I encourage you all to do. Hey, back in the USA, Lei, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. This is your co-host, Lei Xing, former chief editor of China Auto Review, and a home sweet home edition, I guess, and a long-awaited episode number 247. Hard to believe it's been a month since we left for China. So the Beijing Auto Show is in the rear view mirror. The Trump-Xi summit is in the rear view mirror. And I think we're kind of back down to reality a little bit. It's nice to be back from the hustle and bustle and just constantly running around doing events. What a past month has been, right? It's like so many things happening, so many decisions being made recently by the big automakers. And the Trump and Xi summit was, I think, a most influential and consequential event. Although nothing was announced in the auto industry related, but...
Well, nothing was really announced.
Nothing was really announced, but at least, it's...
Another few
as a Chinese American,
trade stability, right?
So. Yeah, as a Chinese American, I'm just happy to see that what is being portrayed, at least on the surface, that Trump was kind of fell soft. He kind of fell soft in China, but that's probably by design. And yeah, but I mean, a lot of things are probably playing out behind the scenes when it comes to both ways, right? Noticeably missing are GM and Ford CEOs in China. Elon Musk was there, and the other way around is what's been happening and potentially could happen. Canada, Mexico, US, a lot of hanging in the balance, something we can look forward to before Xi comes and visits in September. So that's where we kind of begin. And I know you were in London. You're traveling around a bit. We can probably share some experiences over there.
For all you Canadian viewers, I'm actually going to be in Montreal starting about 5 p.m. local time.
So you're going to check out the Formula One?
Yes. My wife, Nee, who you know very well, Lei, she hates, well, I won't say hates, but she doesn't like me very much right now.
But Montreal is almost like your backyard, right? Almost.
So it's a 2-hour flight. So I was in San Francisco for 3 days, went back to Detroit for a week, and then I was in China for 2 weeks.
And then London.
Went to London for a week, and now I'm going to be gone to Montreal for 5 days.
Okay.
So my wife has a broken foot. So my sister is helping out a little bit. And then I get back on Monday. I screwed up, didn't look at the calendar. I accepted this trip and I come back on Monday and I drive to Mackinac Island for the policy conference, which is the biggest event for politicians in Michigan of the year. So every governor candidate, every local representative is going to be there to talk about how they're going to transform the state of Michigan. So we're gonna do a little speaking event, and it's a private session, so no media is going to be involved. But I am tied very closely to the state of Michigan. My family is here. I grew up here, and so it's good to know that at least some people in the state with some influence want to listen to what I have to say. But one thing that was funny is I'm pinging my Canadian friends and I'm like, hey, what's to do in Montreal? I've been to Montreal, haven't been probably in 30, 40 years probably.
Wow.
Great city from what I remember. But last night, the Montreal Canadiens won Game 7. And so the city is on a high. NHL, NHL.
You can
Anyways,
slot one of the hockey games in maybe.
but let's do this. You were in China, so you weren't just in Beijing. You were in Shenzhen for May holiday. Then you spent a few extra days, and you were a busy beaver while you were still in China. So let's start with you talking about what you did, because one of the surprising things that I saw was you have number one as the intelligent driving system was a big surprise to me. So let's rewind to post Shenzhen, or unless you did things during the week in Shenzhen.
No, I didn't do much. It was just resting with my parents. But post the Shenzhen, before I left, I had a chance to... Actually, we were talking about this on the previous try of this episode, which kind of got cut short because bad VPN. So I apologize for that. I shall figure it out. But I had a WeRide WRD 3.0 vehicle on the GAC Ion for a few days right before I left. It performed... My assessment was that it performed better than the XPeng VLA 2.0, better than the Horizon HSD, closest to being FSD, but still a pretty good gap, because I've been driving FSD the last few days back, and it's awesome. Like, I don't want to be a stan, but it is quite awesome.
You are being a stan.
I am being a stan. but I mean, I have
so let me qualify this.
Yeah,
you had limited seat time in the VLA, so I think maybe
I had it for
having a
evening.
bit more. Yeah, so
but the WeRide, it was on the GAC Ion N60. The thing about it is here, that vehicle was recently launched at below 120,000 RMB with LiDAR standard, with front heated, ventilated massage seats, and with the fridge in the middle, with leather seats, with FSD-like capability. What more do you want? And a spacious vehicle
for less than $20,000,
right around that range. I mean, and they just had a recent test from one of these media outlets, and two of their vehicles ranked number 1 and 2 in the ADAS testing. So that was pretty incredible. The capabilities of WRD compared to, although the caveat is I had it for additional days compared to the XPeng. And
that's what I mean. That's all I mean.
Yeah, that's all. But it was great. I mean,
I think the biggest takeaway for me, Lei, is that we tried out multiple systems now in China from several different technology partners for these OEMs. And what we can say definitively is that the intelligent driving space in China is extremely robust. And when you compare that to the United States, where effectively there's FSD, Super Cruise, Blue Cruise, I find it difficult to find a fourth that you can say is even in the same orbit as the Ion system that you just tried, the i6 system that we drove from Beijing to Shanghai for 1,200 kilometers, XPeng VLA 2.0 system. All of these systems are from, half a dozen automakers. This is also where we're extremely behind, as in North America and Europe. And for the sake of simplicity, the Europeans wave the white flag and are just mostly using Momenta, to be quite frank. The Japanese are using Momenta. Hyundai is...
Americans. Yep.
Yeah, so...
Same.
Yeah, the Americans too, and GM at least. We were offered next time we're both in town to try out a Cadillac, so we're going to hold my friend to that that commitment. But Blue Cruise, because I have a Mustang Mach-E and it is very, very limited.
So at the same time, which is good.
Don't take issue today.
Which is good. Yeah. It kind of sucks but nevertheless, no, I was going to say at the same time, so Elon Musk was in China with President Trump doing his memes. But at the same time, I think all of these solutions in China, they have the understanding that FSD, the full blood version, as they say it in Chinese, 满血版, which means the full version, is working on the approval at this point. And the latest rumors are that they're hiring additional people for the localization. And potentially we're looking at a late summer, early fall availability of that in China. Now, when that launches in China with the capabilities that these solutions already have, what happens? So I think these solutions, they understand why this is now so involuted, is racing to put these on the vehicles to be incentivizing these customers. And all of them are they're different, but their capabilities are compared to, 2023, when we first went back and tried some of these systems, they're a lot more advanced. And this is outside of Huawei and Momenta that I haven't tested. So there's at least a handful of solutions competing with FSD in China that are incredibly good.
Yeah. And I have 2 years for my lease to end on the Ford. So I'm hoping that by the time that lease ends, I'll be able to find a robust Lucid, a robust Rivian, a robust, So I think Super Cruise is okay in the United States. I don't think it's still at the level of any of the Chinese that we've tried, but I'm hoping in the next couple of years, we'll see significant improvements and more competitors will throw their hats into the ring. If FSD is still far and above the best system, intelligent driving system in the United States in the next couple of years, I'll probably lean towards getting a Tesla. You heard it here.
You are close to becoming a Tesla stan.
No, I'm getting a little FOMO.
Yeah.
So
it is good. Not being a stan, it is good. It is the benchmark of all the solutions in China.
The CEOs openly acknowledge that.
Yeah. Speaking of this, and then I think we can touch upon the new world order a bit. The new world order in the Chinese and the Western auto industry. It isn't clear by now what Stellantis has announced recently, what Honda has announced recently. I think you pointed this out also in the newsletter, that when we talked about market for technologies back in the 80s and 90s when foreign automakers setting up joint ventures in China, now in the 2020s, that market for technology is flipped, where the Western automakers need the Chinese technologies in order to survive in China and globally. So the latest example, case in point, is Hesai announcing that they're the LiDAR supplier from Mercedes in China and in Europe for their level 3 capabilities. So I just wanted to touch upon that point.
And let me lean into that Stellantis statement. They are going to be having Investor Day this week in Auburn Hills.
We'll be closely watching that, yeah.
So one of the keynotes that Kana had was with Antonio Filosa, the CEO of Stellantis, global CEO. And he effectively punted on most of her questions, referring to giving answers during the Investor Day this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in Montreal, so I won't be able to attend Investor Day, but I will be keenly listening in on what he has to say. I do know that
they will have Gregoire Olivier, who's in charge of the Asia Pacific and China region. There's a segment on him. He will talk about kind of their strategy in China a bit. So
But remember, they're going to be doing this in Auburn Hills, Michigan. So the last thing he's going to want to do is really focus in on how they're going to integrate Leapmotor, what their strategy for partnering with them is, either on the distribution side or IP sharing and licensing. But it's going to be pretty significant. Reuters had that article a few weeks ago about focusing on the 4 brands. I think Peugeot, Fiat, was it Dodge or Ram, and then one other. So I'm assuming that they're going to get more detail or give more meat to those bones about that 4-brand strategy. But absent was Leapmotor. Now, they own 20% of Leapmotor, so it's not insignificant. And I know that in Europe, they're much more open about it. The other thing that, so maybe I can transition to me talking about the Financial Times Future of the Car Summit. So CEO of Renault was there, CEO of Nissan, CEO of Volkswagen brand, global Thomas Schaefer was there. the head of XPeng UK and Eastern Europe was there, Elvis Chung, and he kind of dropped a couple of bombs during his keynote with or fireside with Kana as well.
The 4 European OEMs or brands you mentioned, Renault, Volkswagen, Stellantis, who else? One other?
Volvo head was there.
I mean, all of them, they have different strategies with respect to the Chinese market. The ones that are not even producing takes China as a important role, at least in product development. In the case of Renault, they have the ACTC in Shanghai that's helping them develop products. Stellantis' announcement with Opel, the upcoming C SUV building on the Leapmotor platform, is a good example. And the other interesting thing is the return of Jeep production in China after roughly 10 years or so. It's quite interesting. I don't see that going anywhere, but all of them, right? Volkswagen, right? Not to mention what they're doing already in China. They have different roles of how these Chinese tech players or how China itself plays in their future success. And Stellantis, to be honest, I think financially, given what they announced in the first quarter, there seems to be on the upswing, profitability.
Well, I think they're stabilizing. I don't know if they're in the upswing. I think they're stabilizing.
And now they're pushing more on China, how to utilize China and Leapmotor.
But the biggest wild card currently, Lei, is that the Iran war is pushing up gas prices, which should, you would think, hinder Ford sales, GM sales, Stellantis sales in North America. So we'll have to see over the next several months what sales are and or whether or not Ford, GM, Stellantis puts money on the hood or incentives to sell the SUVs and the pickup trucks. But, we're getting into the summertime. So for the next 3 months, we're probably not going to be able to glean too much out of anything unless there are huge incentives. Then it'll be pretty obvious that sales are slowing down. And I think we've seen that was it GM or Stellantis that did offer some incentives? So
I think
there's some shoots.
Ford has the employee pricing.
And the other thing that looms large is, so the overall
I'm just
theme
glad
of,
I have an EV. I don't have to worry about gas prices.
But the overall theme of the summit was, we know China is going to come to compete really hard. We know that we see opportunities for cooperation, and that's what we're going to do in those particular areas, whether it's technology sharing, distribution, manufacturing. Okay. So one of the things that I don't believe was approved by XPeng PR was that Elvis effectively said Magna Steyr doesn't have enough capacity in their Graz, Austria factory for their demand or what they forecast as their future demand. And I don't know if Magna Steyr knew he was going to say that.
Well, because you know that Magna Steyr also produces for other brands, including Ion, GAC Ion. And I'm sure there will be a third and fourth and fifth Chinese automaker involved at some point. So from that perspective, if they think they see Europe as a major battleground, and volumes increasing, they got to think about. And BYD, Stella, she kind of confirmed they're looking at one of these Stellantis plants. Was it Stellantis?
Yeah, Stellantis factory.
So she kind of confirmed that. These are all kind of on the table.
And because we're in the UK, there's the Sunderland Nissan factory and there's a JLR factory in the UK as well that is looking to get sold to a Chinese automaker. And what was refreshing about this summit, this conference, was that when you're in Europe, the Germans tend to suck the air out of the room in these conferences, but it was a distinctly Europe. You're with some weight on the UK because the UK is not an insignificant market. It's well over 1 million units sold. It was close to 2 million at its peak. So a pretty important market if you're a Chinese automaker. It's right-hand drive, so it's unique that way. And what I kept on hearing was that it's going to be hard to recruit a Chinese automaker because labor costs, union, and energy prices are so high. But Stella, during her speech or during her interview, really leaned into the fast charging, the ultra fast charging and how it's kind of sustainable because they're attaching a battery pack. And then also in the newer charging stations, it's going to be solar powered. And so she emphasized that it's not going to be taking from the grid. I think that's an important distinction, because not only can we store energy and pull from it during low peak times, so prices are lower, we can then use the power of the sun to try to charge.
Just the updated number for everyone to be aware. The latest numbers announced by BYD at the Denza N9 launch was that they now have over 6,000 flash charging stations. So their goal is to get to 20,000 by the end of this year.
That's a bananas number, man. That's a bananas number. And then what else? Any other surprises? We met up with a few people. So a lot of journalists were there. So I got to catch up with
that
Simon.
You probably saw in
Wright.
Beijing, right? Just a week ago, right?
Yeah. So saw Simon, saw Nick Carey from Reuters, and then a bunch of us went out and had a couple of pints because that's what you do in the UK. You have a few pints. And, and I'm sure you do too, a little bit, Lei, when you were in China, just living in a city and not having to actually get into a car to go somewhere. It's actually pretty refreshing. I was in a hotel, central London, so I could go east and I could go west pretty conveniently. And, for £3, I got to the summit pretty easily, pretty quickly, pretty conveniently, on time. I didn't have to worry about traffic. And so I come back here.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I'm an
just
Uber
different
driver
mobility
again.
way of moving around when you're in.
So, yeah, I don't really have anything else. Let me look at the newsletter.
This week, I know we're probably got to figure out maybe. I feel like certainly we probably will not be able to do another episode since you're in Montreal. But something we can look forward to is the NIO earnings, and they've launched quite a few products recently. The L80, the ES9 is launching next week. Apparently, the Li Hong, he hinted that they will have relatively good earnings numbers for Q1 because of their efforts on cost reduction and efficiency. Actually, William was just on this. I just saw this video he put out. He was on NYSE. There was an interview of him, and he was using English, which is cool.
I retweeted it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It felt like it was a little bit he knew the questions, prepared remarks, but still, it's good to I think it's much better.
But even then, I don't think Lei Xing or He Xiaopeng could do
Li
that.
Xiang and He Xiaopeng, they're a little bit less, out there in terms of.
Well, I think their English, isn't as fluent as Williams, but I'm sure, being the obsessives that they all are, they probably practice consistently every day.
Yeah, so that's something we can look forward to. The Xiaomi U7 GT just set a new lap record for SUVs on the Nürburgring. It's launching later this week, I think, on 21st.
Yes.
So I think after the Beijing Auto Show, we're into the season of these launches, right? I mentioned Denza N9, the Wei V9X, the one of the Volkswagen models, the ID Unix 07. And now we're going to see, because the recent numbers out of China are not positive economically, at least what was reported. Retail sales and export remains going to be a huge component of sales going forward.
And it's going to be a flashpoint for countries. Yeah. Because one of the biggest things that was consistent was exports into Europe. And when you talk about exports, you then talk about domestic manufacturing. So it was almost complementary. Are you going to continue to export, or do you have plans to manufacture domestically? And that's kind of where Elvis got into, hey man, we're open for business. We're actively looking. We might buy a Volkswagen factory, and so I was just, whoa. It was kind of refreshing. I don't think he was supposed to say all these things, but he was pretty open about it.
Yeah, no PR control. Just
well, yeah. So I think there was some cleanup. I'm sure that some of his partners were like, "What the hell, man?" So
yeah, But speaking of
Anyways.
XPeng, they just started job one of the GX Robotaxi. Vision-based, HT map-free, using 4 of their Turing chips. You can mention the Auto L9 Livis, which is using 2 of their M1 2560 tops. It's overkill. It's overkill.
As Jensen Huang is eating
Yeah.
the mian.
Him and Elon Musk stole a lot of thunder from Trump when they were in China. It was all
How many
the
memes came from that Lei Xing
My God.
with Elon Musk?
And
so,
but
my goodness.
yeah.
Because Jensen peeled off from the group and he went to Nanlu Guxiang and I think
I got to
that's
try
where the
one of
noodle
those
was.
dojos.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. It always is a little bit, kind of seeing places you and I have been to probably dozens of times on international news. Now that restaurant that Jensen Huang went to, they created a specific dish
Menu.
or a menu item.
Yeah, menu item.
So
this Trump visit, I think it got pretty mainstream. I was talking to my volleyball dads and moms, and they were saying, Trump was in China, right? And then they were like, yeah, with Elon, right? Yeah, so it's
anyways,
pretty international.
The one thing that I wanted your thoughts on, Lei, is what I wrote in the newsletter was like all these car companies are now tech companies, and it's not limited to the Chinese because, although Stella has talked about being a tech company, XPeng is now saying they're a tech company. Many, Xiaomi is kind of straddles because they started in consumer tech and are moving into the automotive space, so they probably have the most cred. But GM has talked about it. And GM is actually having an event on June 9th in San Francisco with Sterling Anderson to talk about some of their initiatives. And so I might be going to that. But so I'm curious to see. And Ford also had an event during last week that a few people had gone to, and it's kind of all over the news now because they did a visit to the Long Beach office. But I don't know if they really showed anything off besides the actual facility because people were pretty curious about how far along is the UEV and stuff like that. So,
I kind of tweeted there's China speed and then there's California speed.
Yeah. So, but what do you think about, because if every Chinese EV company is now a tech company, then it kind of washes out and it doesn't really make a difference. Well, they just have to show us now, right? Instead of telling us.
That's the thing. I mean, that's how involuted it is that I talked about this, right? What you have, everybody else will have.
That makes keying in on your customer such an important thing and knowing exactly who your customer is from a branding standpoint.
Yeah,
I think it makes it more important.
Because the Li Auto L9 is the perfect example, the new L9, because now it's up against the new M9. It's up against the new Denza that just launched, which is even priced right around that price range. It's not like when the L9 just launched, it was kind of the OG, there was no competition. Now it's entirely different. I think it's a lot tougher to stand out among the crowd these days.
So that's really all I have. We will let everyone know if we can do a live show on Friday. I'll try to do that by tomorrow. I'll figure out my schedule and tweet. But so for those that are interested, honestly, if there's not a lot going on, maybe we just punt to the next week, but let me confirm tomorrow. Happy birthday to our friend, Claudio Afonso. He's 28. And it was funny.
That's a young age.
He comes from Portugal to London and they had put a name tag and it was Claudio. It missed the L. And so I just kept on making fun of him for that. And I posted in the newsletter some pictures of me and Afonso. Okay. And I said, my new friend Claudio. So yeah, anyways, let's go to comments. Great to see you guys again. SPX Nomad. Who are the major winners out of the Beijing Auto Show thus far? Weeks later, other than the Chinese consumers.
Who are the major winners? I mean, there's so many different ways you can cut it. I mean, by what standard, right? I'd probably say Huawei is one of the winners. As always.
And, I think XPeng, I think they did a very good job. They kind of blitzed the media. And brought in all these international journalists.
Well, also,
and
didn't talk about this, but if I had to vote one of the best, right? I voted the IDR 9X. It's probably the best from the foreign volume brands.
Volkswagen products, to be quite frank. Are they Volkswagen-y enough? I don't know, but they're better than their first set of products, the ID3 and ID4 and stuff like that.
Those are last generation.
So will they sell well? I don't know. What else?
The thing is, these early numbers they announced, they look good. 11,000 units ordered in, I don't know, a couple of hours. How long does that stay?
Yeah, that's fleeting. Fleeting. What else do they do now?
The Neo ESA, right? They're coming up on 110,000 deliveries. That's less than Neo ESA was launched in September, right, last year. So that's still less than a year. How long does a model stay,
I would say 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Maybe
it's
2 months. Maybe 2 months. So Seymour Fact, go ahead.
It's intense. I'm just saying it's intense.
Seymour Fact says the Zeekr VLA looks really good. FSD hesitates too much. XPeng VLA hesitates too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has he tested it, or
Seymour Fact, have you tested it, or you're just based on the videos that you've seen? And then SPX, the Chinese imports to Canada announced so far seem to be playing safe, not the latest, greatest models. Yeah, I think they're trying to figure out what the right product mix is, what the right price point is, who the dealers and the agents that they're working with are going to be. Then what we'll likely see is, as the market loosens up and gets more used to Chinese brands, we'll see in a 20,000 US dollar Chinese EV probably lands in Canada at 40. Okay, so
yeah.
I don't think they're going to be landing at 25, 30,000 Canadian. Now, will they build them domestically and then maybe get some of the more mass market vehicles there? Yes. But remember that the Canada market, the United States market, those are two markets that they're going to try to wring profits from. So I don't see the cheapest, most inexpensive vehicles landing there, because I think there's better value at kind of the mid price points.
Sure, but I think same thing is going to play out, where if you look at the bang for the buck, what you pay for 40,000 Canadian dollars, if you trust the quality and the fit and finish, it's above and beyond what you can buy 40,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah,
if they have similar features.
If I were Leap, if I were BYD or Geely, with Geely, depending on the brand, I would look at what the current competition is from Hyundai, from Kia, from GM, and the pricing. And then I would find a product that has just a few more features than the current competition domestically in Canada, and start to import that at the same price. Because it'll be more expensive, or it'll generate more profits for them.
Let's say, so the tariff is 6%, right? For Canada?
Yeah. But that's something they put on everything, I think. That's something they put on everything.
If an EV that's costing $25,000 US dollars imported into Canada at the current tariff rates, how much would you add on top of it for a realistic price that you can buy as a consumer? Do a quick math. You add what, 10, 15,000 on top, or no?
Well, I think it's probably going to be like a percentage. So maybe I would say 35%. So if it's a $20,000 car, add $7-8 maybe, $10,000.
Right. Yeah. Then it's still pretty competitive price wise.
Yeah, for sure. But that's also why Canada limited it, to 49,000 units. Yeah. And the 49,000 units, I don't think you can export an ES8 at $65,000 or $55,000.
Right.
So I think, let's see how that plays out over the next 6 to 8 months, and see what our government's reaction is going to be to that. And I will, in 2 weeks' time anyways, be able to give you much more clarity on what local Michigan politicians are thinking, because we've effectively restricted them, because there were senators and politicians that created bills to try to keep them out. The Trump administration obviously listened a little bit because there were no announcements during his visit. So what now?
So until this point, Trump himself still has not openly said anything about the possible investment in the auto industry other than what he said earlier in the year, right? Let them come in and hire you and your neighbors.
That's an ongoing discussion, I think, behind the scenes.
So, yeah, but I mean, from the Congress, right? We heard about the Connected Vehicle Safety Act that was kind of put out by these two Congress, and then the associations, Jim Farley, everybody's at this point is against it. But Trump has not openly said anything yet.
But his Lieutenant Lutnick did.
Yeah, right.
So how did you establish contacts with NBC and other news outlets? How did they know you are the guy that has the deepest and freshest insights into the industry? No need to comment if it's personal.
Well, we've been doing this for such a long time. I mean, you're on multiple outlets, right? So
yeah, I think it's about time.
We got tracked down by these people who are.
I think it's about time. Honestly, if you want to ask who's the winner from the Beijing Auto Show, I think Li Auto, because we got 2,000 views from our video.
Cool. Yeah.
So I think we're starting to build that foundation, and maybe the algorithm is really picking up China EVs more a little bit. Now, again, we don't spend any marketing dollars, and we should do that. But I also think you and I having higher profiles a little bit now also helps. So see more fact, Zeekr Robotaxi in Las Vegas now. Waymo is going to be a monster, I feel.
Yeah, with the Ohais.
Yeah, Dungy shot here. So Seymour Fact is looking. Seymour Fact is basing his XPeng comment on the videos.
Yeah. I mean, the XPeng, the VLA does, like I said, all the solutions in China, they're fantastic in Chinese specific situations where I wonder and I question, can FSD do the same? See, that's the thing I don't know because the scenarios are such complex and different.
But, a different perspective on that, Lei, is that in North America, genuinely, suburbs, they drive a little bit faster, because city traffic in China is pretty slow. So there's different things. That's why I really don't think there's going to be a universal robotaxi now, because the software will be different in each city. I think the characteristics need to be programmed in. So, I just don't know.
I mean, the Auto, the 6 was tested. It's not like it stands above everybody else because other solutions could be doing the same thing. That's the thing. It's how good they are.
And when Seymour Fact, when you talk about it hesitates too much, that could be gone in a software update and an OT update. So I think to me, I look at it like, do I feel safe? Does it keep me safe? How close to the lines does it swerve and go back and forth within the lines, or is it pretty straight? Is it pretty steady? Like if I'm on a highway and it curves a lot and it kind of jerky curves to follow the line, that is not great. That's not a great experience. It might keep me safe, but it's not great, and it makes me cringe a little bit because in the United States, there's always a Tahoe and F450 right next to you. So if it reacts late to the curve, feels like I'm going to go hit this car next to me. And in China, at least, I didn't feel that as much in the i6. I didn't feel that as much in the VLA XPeng system. And so that's how I'm judging and basing my opinion on these things. Is it still a little bit herky-jerky, even within the lanes? Or because one of the biggest challenges for i6 was there's a decent amount of construction in certain areas, and it got confused on some of the lines and the grids and stuff like that. Remember that? And then, one of the things we noted was that happened more than once, more than twice, almost every time, was that it was very late and aggressive on moving over multiple lanes when it needed to exit. But again, that's a software update. I don't think that's a system failure.
All of these systems, they're good, but not perfect. They have their own bugs in their own ways. But the other thing is, now in China, you have, I mentioned the Ion, which is sub 120,000 RMB with this capability, all the way up to the Denzas, the Neos, which have these capabilities. It's just available, standardized. And yeah.
So Seymour Fact has a Model Y. So that's what he's kind of jonesing for some of the Chinese intelligent driving. Malcolm Bennett. What's going on? I think you're newish, maybe, or this is the first time you've commented. Welcome, Malcolm. In Canada, made in China Tesla seem to have flooded the quota. BYD, et cetera, need to establish cars, parts, dealership throughout country to become established in years to come. So didn't Geely already start shipping Lotuses? So I think that's always that's another advantage as well for Lotus brand, because Lotuses were sold in Canada already. So just like Tesla's has already a distribution network, but I don't know how the Canadian government, I don't know how the Chinese government is going to divide that 49,000 quota up. Okay, is it first come first serve?
Being worked out, right?
Right.
Obviously, no one brand or company is going to take the entire quota.
Because if that was the case, Tesla would take all 49.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure they're jostling at this point, working things out.
You know, one of the things that our friend Steve Levine had written was that the first 4 months of this year, Tesla sales in China has been fairly resilient. So the brand is still really, really strong in China.
Yeah, and especially when Elon Musk is in China, right? They announced this Elon Musk in China promotion.
You got to take advantage of everything. Take advantage of everything. Create an opportunity. More facts. LA was tested in a highly congested area with mopeds, bicycles going everywhere. It did much better than FSD. There was a side-by-side comparison. But remember, in China anyways, FSD is not full FSD.
No.
I think that's important to remember.
It's currently the so-called 13 something, whereas in the US, they just pushed out 14.33.
Doesn't have as much data training the algo, because you can't push that data out to combine it with all the other data anyways. FSD makes me feel I'm going to get rear-ended all the time, turning right or left from the stop. I guess that's not your experience then, Lei, right?
No, the 14.32 is noticeably more decisive compared to the previous one.
Wow, so I thought we were going to be quick, but we're 53 minutes in, and I will remind everyone again tomorrow whether or not we're going to have a Friday episode. So check X, and we'll update you tomorrow.
Either way,
DM you details about Montreal. I think it'll be interesting. I've never been to an F1 event. I'm not a big motorsports guy. This is an experience. So
MU, man. I'm a big F1 fan. So, but on the
who should I root for? Who should I root for?
Well, there's Mercedes. Looks like they're the ones to beat this year. But my daughter, she's a Ferrari fan.
So Lewis Hamilton
and Leclerc.
Okay. So,
but
all right,
everyone, look on the lookout for Chinese EVs. See if you see any.
Yeah, I will. My point is, so Malcolm Bennett, my point is Tesla already has a network while the others made in China manufacturers do not. Lotus have a very, very small market. But yes, they do.
Yeah. No,
the Lotus CEO was at FT, and they sell, in the thousands of units a year. So they're a very niche brand. But everyone, Montreal is a great city and fantastic racetrack. Have a great time. Thank you. I'm looking very forward to it. And it looks like it's not going to be super hot, because I'm fat, and so when it's super hot, I just sweat buckets. And I don't speak French, so hopefully that's not a huge issue. But anyways, everyone, thanks for joining us after a very long hiatus and some technical difficulties last week. We will talk with you all in a few days or in a week and a half. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. See you later, Lei.
Au revoir.
That brings us to the end of this week's show. Lei and I thank you for tuning in. My name is Tu Lee, and you can find me on Twitter at Sino Auto Insight. That's SinoAutoInsight. You can find Lei on Twitter at Lei Xing 77. That's LEIXING 77. If you wouldn't mind rating and or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you grab your podcast from, we'd appreciate that as well. Even better, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends about it. Please join us again next week as we track down all the latest news on China, EVs, and more.